My name is Delaney Hayes. I am 68 years old. That morning, the kitchen smelled faintly of cinnamon and pumpkin from the jam I had stirred slowly on the stove. A recipe my mother had taught me decades ago. It was the kind of scent that should have brought warmth and memories of my daughter, Claire, when she was small and raced around the house with bright eyes and scraped knees. But the moment I picked up my phone, that feeling vanished. A notification blinked in our family group chat. I expected a drawing from my granddaughter or a reminder about Sunday lunch. Instead, the message froze me in place. We think it's best if you keep distance for a while, below it. A small blue thumbs up from her husband. Brian confirmed that they agreed. My chest tightened. 30 years of raising Claire alone. Countless sleepless nights, broken fingernails from sewing, and sacrifices so she could have a life I had postponed for her, reduced to a few indifferent words on a screen. My hands trembled as I typed back, "Understood. I will respect your request." I paused, breathing through the tightness in my chest, then thought about the mortgage and transfers. They would feel the weight of this choice soon enough. And immediately the phone began buzzing with calls and messages, all demanding attention, all urgent. I set it down and leaned against the counter, trying to steady my breath. The jam simmered and bubbled, and for the first time, I felt the sharp edge of clarity cut through my years of quiet endurance. Love without respect nourishes no one, I realized. And if they wanted distance, they would have it, and they would soon discover the price of losing me. I set the phone down and let the silence settle around me. The aroma of pumpkin jam still hung in the air, but now it carried a bitter tang. A reminder of all the hours I had poured into raising Claire alone. I remembered the nights I worked 16-hour shifts at the textile factory, my hands blistered and aching so she could attend piano lessons and summer camp. "Mom, can you help me with my homework?" she would ask, eyes wide with trust, and I would nod through the exhaustion. Always nod, because she was my world. I remembered the mornings I woke before dawn, preparing oatmeal and toast, carefully laying out her favorite blue plate. "Thank you, Mom," she would whisper, and I felt the small reward of a day's sacrifice. The days were long, the money stretched impossibly thin. I sold the little plot of land my late husband had left me for her college fund, each dollar a testament to my commitment. "Mom, can I have $5 for lunch?" she would ask innocently, and I would hand her 2 bills, forcing a smile. Every penny I gave, every hour I sacrificed, I thought it was for her happiness, for her future. Even now, decades later, I could feel the echo of her laughter bouncing against the walls of this very kitchen. I could see the tiny hands clinging to mine, the scraped knees and shouted promises of forever. I did not regret a single moment, but the memory now cut sharper than any knife. I had given everything, and yet a single message had reduced all those years to nothing more than a cold, indifferent tap of a thumbs up. The kitchen felt smaller, heavier. I touched the counter, tracing the scratches made from decades of use, and knew in my heart no amount of love or sacrifice guarantees recognition. I sank into the worn kitchen chair, my hands still trembling from the messages. Claire had always been my light, my purpose, and now she was the source of a wound I could hardly bear. I stared at the blue thumbs up from her husband, Brian, a tiny symbol of indifference that spoke louder than words. "Mom, I'll be late tonight," Claire said later that afternoon, her voice clipped, almost rehearsed. "I have a dinner with co-workers." I forced a calm smile. "Of course. Honey, don't stay too late." My words felt hollow even as I said them. Later. She walked through the living room carrying Sophie. "Grandma, look at my drawing," the little girl chirped. I reached out, but Claire intercepted. "Not right now." "Mom, we're busy." Her tone was firm, final. My chest tightened. Every small gesture, every little boundary, felt like another brick in the wall they were building between us. I recalled the nights I had held Claire close when she was sick, the mornings I had whispered encouragement before exams, the hours I had spent sewing her Halloween costumes and prom dresses. And now, decades of care were reduced to a curt dismissal. A subtle push that told me I was nothing more than an obstacle. I wanted to speak, to remind her of all I had done, but I swallowed the words. Instead, I said quietly, "I'll respect your space." She barely nodded, already moving toward the door. Even Sophie looked up at me with wide eyes, sensing the tension, the silent fracture in the bond she had always trusted. That evening, I sat alone at the kitchen table, counting in my mind every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every dollar spent for their happiness. The realization sank deep. Claire and Brian saw me not as a mother or grandmother, but as a burden, an inconvenient presence in their lives. I clenched my fists, letting the anger settle in like fire through my veins. The time for quiet compliance was over. They would learn that every action carries consequences, and I was no longer invisible. I sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand, and stared at the long list of automatic transfers I had set up over the years. $2,000 one month, $3,500 the next, $5,000 regularly, all flowing out of my account without hesitation. Every cent a promise I had kept, every dollar a measure of my love. Until today, I dialed the bank, my voice steady but sharp. "I need to cancel all recurring transfers to Claire's account," I said. The teller asked for confirmation, and I repeated my words. "Yes, I understand the implications. I will no longer make the mortgage payment of $3,200, nor the monthly transfers of $5,000. The line went silent for a moment, and I felt a pulse of satisfaction. The control I had surrendered for decades was slowly returning to me. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed nonstop. Claire called, then Brian, then messages flooded in. "Mom, what's going on?" Claire demanded, her voice tight, defensive. "I'm respecting your request for space," I said evenly. "And I will also stop funding the mortgage and the transfers until further notice." "You can't do that." "The mortgage are bills." "What are you thinking?" she said, incredulous. "I've been thinking for years," I replied. "Every time I gave, it never seemed enough. You wanted distance. Now you have it, along with the consequences of your choices." Her silence was sharp, cutting. I could almost hear the gears turning as she tried to reconcile her world with the sudden reality that I could say no. Later, I sat back, hands clasped. The first real calm I had felt in years. There was fear in taking control. Yes, but also clarity. I had drawn a line, one that no message, no small act of indifference, could erase. The power to choose when and how to give belonged to me again. I knew the storm was coming. Calls, messages, pleading. But for the first time, I understood that standing firm, setting boundaries, was not cruel, it was necessary, and I was ready. Martha arrived that afternoon without warning. Her hair pulled back tightly, her eyes sharp with purpose. "Delaney, we need to talk," she said, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. I motioned to the kitchen table. She sat down, placing a small bag of pastries beside her. "I've been watching from the sidelines," she began, her voice low, almost trembling with frustration. "And I think you deserve to know what's really been going on." I leaned forward. "What do you mean?" she exhaled, shaking her head. "It's Claire. She's not just asking for space. She's been planning to push you out to remodel the guest room, your room. She wants it for herself. From what I observed, she's been preparing subtle changes quietly for months, hoping I wouldn't notice." My hands tightened around the edge of the table. What? How do you know this? I overheard a conversation between her and Brian, and I saw the designs she was saving on her computer, floor-to-ceiling mirrors, glossy wood shelves, LED lights, $35,000 worth of materials. She's been counting on you giving them space so they could do it without interference. I felt a cold weight settle in my chest. 30 years of care, every sacrifice, and now it was part of a calculated plan to make me vanish. She planned this, I whispered. Martha nodded. Yes. She even justified it to herself, saying you're too clingy, always inserting yourself, wanting to visit every weekend. But she still expects your money to keep flowing. She called it an adjustment. I shook my head, unable to grasp how deliberate this had been. All the times I've helped, loaned money, covered the mortgage, even for the little things. And she plotted this. Martha's hand landed gently on mine. It wasn't your fault, Delaney. She miscalculated. And now you know. You have the power to decide how to respond. I exhaled slowly, letting the truth sink in. Every message, every curt dismissal, every blue thumbs up suddenly made sense. My chest burned with a mix of anger and clarity. I could feel the gears turning in my mind, contemplating what to do next, but also a calm certainty. I looked at Martha, voice steady. I will wait. Let them learn the consequences. I won't rush. But when the time comes, they will see that love and care cannot be exploited. I spread the papers across the kitchen table, a sea of receipts, bank statements, and transfer confirmations. Each slip was a testament to 3 years of unwavering support. $2,000 here, $3,500 there, $5,000 every month without fail. I had even covered Sophie's health insurance, $890 each month. Every document told the same story, my love, my sacrifice, my labor turned into numbers. I whispered aloud, almost to myself. Over $200,000, not counting the down payment. All of it given freely. Never expecting acknowledgement in return? Martha sat across from me, her hands folded, watching me tally the totals. It's staggering, she said softly. And they treated it as if it were nothing. They did, I agreed, pressing my palms to my eyes. Every message, every blue thumbs up, every curt dismissal, it was never about respect. It was about control. And now they're about to learn that actions have consequences. I began organizing the papers chronologically. March, mortgage $3,200, extra transfer $2,000, April $3,200 plus $2,500. The numbers stacked higher, mounting evidence of my generosity. Each month repeated the same pattern. Each emergency air conditioner repairs, car repairs. Sophie's tuition added to the total. Martha leaned closer. Are you going to show them? I lifted my head, eyes steady. Not yet. I need to prepare myself to make sure when the time comes, it's clear they cannot claim ignorance. Every penny, every sacrifice, recorded, every text, every request they made, saved. I picked up my phone, scrolling through messages where Claire begged for extra help, promised repayment that never came. Each one was proof that they knew it was a loan in practice, even if they called it a gift. Martha placed a comforting hand on mine. You've done everything you could. Now it's their turn to feel the weight of their choices. I nodded, the fire inside me burning steadier. I wasn't angry for the sake of anger. I was angry because they had tried to exploit a lifetime of love, and I would not allow it to happen. When the moment came, they would see exactly what it cost to push me aside. I stayed mostly silent over the next few weeks, letting the consequences unfold without interference. The phone rang constantly, Claire demanding updates on the mortgage, Brian insisting they couldn't cover the house without my assistance. I let them speak, listened to every pleading word, every frustrated sigh. every half-hearted excuse. "Mom, we're behind on the payment," Claire said one evening, her voice tight with tension. "The bank wants $3,200 by tomorrow." "I'm aware," I replied evenly. "You have the space you asked for. You will need to manage it yourselves." There was a pause. I could hear her inhale sharply, her control slipping. "But Mom, without your transfers, how are we supposed to—" "You can figure it out," I interrupted gently but firmly. "It's time you feel the weight of your choices. Every transfer, every extra help I gave, it was never a guarantee for your comfort." The calls and messages kept coming. I read a few, letting the rest ring through unanswered. The weight of responsibility was finally theirs to bear, and I stayed calm, observing quietly as they realized the consequences of their choices. Through it all, I watched Claire struggle with mounting stress, snapping at small things, her patience thinning, arguments over groceries, gas bills, and little Sophie's playdates erupted where none had existed before. I could almost hear the realization forming in her mind. Life without my support was harder than she imagined. I did not gloat, though a small satisfaction settled in my chest. This was not revenge. It was truth in motion. Actions carry consequences, and they had been shielded from them for too long. I had finally reclaimed the space to observe, to allow responsibility to reach those who had taken me for granted. Each day, as they fumbled through their own missteps, I reminded myself quietly, love without respect can be exploited, but consequences teach lessons even when words fail. The doorbell rang mid-afternoon. Tentative, hesitant, I knew immediately it was Claire. I had prepared myself for this moment, rehearsed every word in my mind, but that did not stop my heart from tightening. I opened the door, and she stood there, her shoulders slumped, eyes red from unshed tears. "Mom," she said softly, voice cracking. I messed up. I know I hurt you." I stepped aside, letting her in without a word. Sophie peeked from behind her dress, curious and cautious. "Grandma," she whispered, but I held up a hand, motioning patience. Claire led her inside. "I didn't mean to treat you like a burden," Claire continued, her voice catching. I thought I needed space, but I didn't realize what I was doing. I listened quietly, letting each word settle. "You are learning now," I said evenly, "but acknowledgement is not enough. There are boundaries that must be respected moving forward." She nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand. I want to make it right. I will do anything." "Not anything," I interrupted gently. "There are conditions. You will begin repaying the funds I provided over the past 3 years, which total $267,000, plus the $95,000 down payment for your house. 60% will be repaid over 5 years, roughly $3,620 a month. The remaining 40% I will forgive if you respect these rules." Claire's eyes widened, and I continued. "Visitation with Sophie will be on my terms. You will no longer dictate when or how I see my granddaughter, and financial support beyond emergencies for health or safety ends today. You are 35, Claire. You can manage your own life." She swallowed, nodding slowly. I understand. Mom, I will follow the plan. I promise." I studied her, feeling a shift in the air. "Good. Then we can begin rebuilding trust. Not because it was owed, but because it can be earned." Sophie ran to my arms. Smiling tentatively, I hugged her tightly, feeling the warmth of connection without surrendering control. Claire watched, silent, learning that love without respect cannot be unconditional. I stepped back, voice calm but firm. "This is the start, not a return to the past. Respect is required. Boundaries are real. If you can honor that, there is a way forward." I woke that morning with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had reclaimed control. The house felt lighter, my steps steadier. I brewed a cup of coffee, measuring the beans with the care I had always reserved for my grandchildren, not for the stress that had weighed me down for years. Sophie arrived later. Skipping down the hall, "Grandma, look what I drew," she exclaimed, holding up a brightly colored picture. I smiled, taking it in my hands. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. I love it." Claire hovered at the doorway, hesitant. "Mom, I brought Sophie early today." I thought I held up a hand, interrupting gently. "She's here on my terms. That is the arrangement we agreed upon." Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she nodded, understanding the limits. For the first time in years, I felt the freedom to make my own decisions. I opened the sewing box I had neglected, threading a blue ribbon through a needle, remembering the joy it brought me decades ago. Martha called mid-morning, and we spoke about an art exhibit downtown I had wanted to visit. "Go, Delaney. You deserve this," she said. I smiled into the phone, savoring the permission to live for myself. Later, Sophie and I baked cookies, laughing as flour dusted the counters and her small hands clumsily shaped the dough. Claire watched silently, a reminder that love could coexist with boundaries. I realized that self-respect was not about withholding love, it was about maintaining dignity. I could care for my family, nurture my granddaughter, and still stand firm in my own life. When Sophie hugged me before leaving, I held her close, savoring the connection without compromise. I whispered, "I am proud of you, Sophie, and I am proud of myself too." I sat on the balcony, Charleston's afternoon sun warming my face, the familiar rhythm of the city below blending with my steady breath. The house was quiet, Sophie visiting under my rules, Claire respectful of the boundaries I had set. I held a sketchbook in my hands, pages filled with drawings I had started months ago, colors bold, strokes confident. "Look, Martha," I said later when she called. I finally painted for myself, not for anyone else. "You've earned this," she replied, voice soft but full of pride. I leaned back, thinking of the years I had worked, the $267,000 I had given in transfers, the $95,000 for the down payment, all spent with love and care. None of it diminished my dignity, though they had tried. Sophie ran to me, bright-eyed, tugging my hand. "Grandma, let's bake cookies." I laughed, letting her lead, savoring the joy without compromise. Unconditional love does not mean enduring disrespect. I had learned that lesson painfully, but fully. I could love deeply, yet preserve myself. I closed the sketchbook and breathed in the Charleston breeze. Calm, steady, free. The world moved below me, and for the first time in years, I moved with it, confident and whole.